Hey YouTubers, Woodpops here. You ever been doing some crushed stone inlay and you just didn't have the color that you wanted? Doesn't that just tick you off? You need a certain color and Mother Nature just doesn't provide it. Well, in this episode, I'm going to show you how to make the colors that you want from the crushed stone that you have. Don't go anywhere. Stick around. Watch the whole episode. You don't want to miss this part. Okay, in this episode of Expressions in Wood, I'm going to show you how I dye crushed stone to give me the colors that I want. Not just any kind of colors, vibrant colors. That's right. When you need a real red, I'll show you how to get one. You need a yellow, got you covered. Stick around, watch the whole episode. Don't go anywhere. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring that little bell so you'll be notified. And we're going to jump right in here on how to dye crushed stone for your inlay. All right. Let's go. These are the players for dyeing my crystals. I use denatured alcohol. I use any kind of dye that is alcohol based, artisan, mixol, transtint, chromacolor, any of those dyes that you can mix with alcohol. Those are the kinds that you have to use. The crystals that I use, the mineral inlay or the crushed stone, are the clear or semi-clear. And this is so that you can see the color through the crystal, through the crushed stone when it's complete, and you'll see as we progress. I use a jar, any kind of little jar, whatever, and I put my semi-clear or clear crushed stone in the little jar, and then I'm going to add denatured alcohol. Make sure that you use enough denatured alcohol to cover your crushed stone. Remember, when you're adding dye, the more dye you add to the denatured alcohol, the more vibrant your color is. Then the next thing I do is I pick the dye I'm going to use. This time I'm going to use some transtint. I'm going to shake it up real good. And I'm going to put just a few drops in. I'm going to put the lid on it. I'm going to shake it up. And this is what we have. The more I let the stone soak in the dye, the better. This is what they look like when they come out and they're finished the drying process. Okay? These beautiful colors. And the drying process is really simple. I use a cookie sheet, an old cookie sheet, and you can see that my cookie sheet here has got lots of different colors, stains on it, and that's because this is my working cookie sheet. So what I'll do is when I'm ready to dry these is I'll get my little jar of material like this, okay? I'll get a little clean dish, and of course this has been cooking for a while. The longer it cooks, the better, and the reason is because this crystal is somewhat porous, and so it can soak up some of the dye to a certain degree into the first layer of the crystal. So the longer you let it sit in the dye, the more it soaks in. Okay, so now I've got this in another dish, and what I do is I pour out
that extra there, and I keep that because I can put more crystals in it and use it again. And now what I've got are the crystals that you saw were clear, and now they're beautiful green, just from that little tiny amount of time that they've been in there. Okay. Now at this point in time, normally what I do is I spread these out on my cookie sheet so they get, so there's a fine layer. And remember, I'm using denatured alcohol, and the reason I use denatured alcohol is because it evaporates quickly, so the crystals dry pretty quick. But I have learned another secret, and the secret is this, and I'm not saying you should do this, I'm not advising you to do this, I'm just telling you this is what I do. I use extreme caution when I do this. I take this cookie sheet outside and I use a lighter and I ignite the denatured alcohol, which is actually clean burning fuel. And it burns with a flame that you can hardly see, and what happens is it burns off the remaining alcohol and the heat sets the dye in the crystal. Okay, like I said, I don't recommend that anybody do this. This is what I do. I'm very careful. I always take it outside. I never do it in the shop. The only thing I take out is the cookie sheet with this on it. I don't take any extra fuel, anything. I wear oven mitts because the tray can get hot, and it only burns for like maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and then when it's finished I'll let it set outside in the sun for maybe a couple more minutes, and then when I bring it in, it's all nice and dried, and at this point I grate it just like the grating process. Okay, and here's what I learned from this. Because these crystals are clear and the dye gets on all the edges all the way around, when I put this particular mineral or stone on the top layer of my piece that I'm inlaying, cement it in, do everything that I do to it like we're going to cover in another video. When that's all done, when all my mineral is inlaid and when it's dried a couple of days, and I start sanding it, and I take it over to the lathe, put it back on the lathe, turn it on low speed, about 100 RPMs, use a power sander, and I start sanding the material. What happens is the dye is sanded away from the surface. Okay? However, on the sides and the bottom, the dye is not sanded. So what you end up with is your color slightly muted, seen through the crystal. So the back side has the color on it. So it gives you depth in your inlay. And depth, when you're doing a critter, an image, is what you want.
Well, that wraps up that episode of Expressions in Wood. I hope you liked it. Be sure and tell me down in the comments what you thought. If you haven't subscribed, please do so right there, and the next video is up right over there. Be sure and check it out. Thanks a lot.